And now it's time to name this week's Idiot Extraordinaire. When someone submits a nomination for this non-award for nonsense, which you can do by sending an email to podcast@bogosity.tv, it is given due consideration. When 2 or more people nominate the same dolt in the same week, it's truly significant. Such is the case with this week's loser winner, David John Wellman. Virgil 0211 and Lord T. Hawkeye have both nominated this idiot non-savant because of his pathetic attempts to support that fastigium of fascism known as the social contract.
Taxation is actually part of the social contract, a contract that every American is bound to. You can read this contract in the U.S. Constitution.
This dogmatic dullard has apparently never even read the Constitution, or he would know that no citizen anywhere in the United States is bound to it. If someone comes onto your property and starts preaching, you can throw him off your property, by physical force if necessary, without running afoul of his First Amendment protections to freedom of speech or religion. It's not citizens that are restricted by the Constitution, it's government. Whenever anyone in government takes office, from Congress and the President, to governors and state legislators, to local councilmen, every bureaucrat, every soldier, every cop on the beat, swears an oath to defend the Constitution. The Constitution is not there to limit the people or bind them to some contract they never agreed to. It's there to limit the government and bind them from intruding in our lives. This social contract bogosity is nothing more than a surreptitious way of sneaking in the ancient concept of the divine right of kings. Only now, it's the law and the lawmakers and law enforcers who have this divine right. At any time, they can change the terms of the contract, and if they say they get to scan your junk when you get on a plane, then you just have to accept it. It's fascism, it's totalitarianism, and it is completely against everything this country was founded for.
Your parents entered into the contract when you were born, by choosing for you to live here and have citizenship in the United States.
Sorry, but parents and legal guardians cannot enter into a contract for a minor. When a child actor or model is hired, the contract is made with the parents. The parents are not agents. They, not the child, are bound to the terms of the contract. And in contract law, agents themselves are not bound to the terms, only the principal. And agency is invalid if the principal is unable to understand the terms of the contract. The child is not bound to the contract, is not acted against if the contract is breached, and cannot be held to it once the child comes of age. At that point, a contract with the child must be signed.
And the contract renewed automatically when you turned 18.
Sorry, it just doesn't work that way. A contract becoming effective due to inaction is legally known as estoppel. But estoppel does not apply to someone just turning 18 when they never agreed to anything before. It happens when they take action that demonstrates the truth of something without them confronting it at the time. And besides, a breach of contract is a civil matter, not a criminal. No breach of contract justifies someone being put in jail.
Fortunately, like all ethical contracts, you have the right to get out of the contract anytime you want. All you have to do is renounce your citizenship and leave the country.
But that's known as duress, and it automatically invalidates any contract. The concept he's trying to dance around here is called tacit consent, and it is soundly rejected by contract law. Besides, all someone leaving the country can do is go to a different country, where presumably a whole new social contract awaits them that they can't get out of agreeing to. Not to mention the fact that when you leave the country, you have to go through this wonderful government to get to it. A government that can stop you at customs, scan your naked body, and even detain you indefinitely without habeas corpus, even after you've been acquitted, according to President Obama. So the one way you can get out of this contract, which is duress anyway, only means that you're subject to another one, and the government can stop you from doing it if they want. This completely rules out the possibilities of rebellion, nullification, and civil disobedience, all of which were crucial to the founding of our country and the protection of our rights. The more we get away from these concepts, the more our civil liberties will get violated by people who think they can just make up the terms of this phantom contract as they go along. The fact is, if his ridiculous contract were to be claimed by someone acting on their own and taken to a court of law, it would be stricken down on every single ground that exists for doing so. Contracts require mutual consent, meaning that both parties have to actively agree to it. An offer and acceptance, also known as meeting of the minds, which obviously doesn't exist in his description. Consideration, which has to do with an evaluation of the detriment versus the bargain, something else that no one gets to do. Both parties must have the capacity to contract. The awareness that they are doing so, and why would he have to tell us this if we were aware of it? The parties must intend to form a legal relationship, and the parties must consent to all of the terms. Past consideration is inefficient to claim contractual obligation, as is pre-existing duty. Duress, undue influence, unconscionability, and frustration of purpose all can be used as arguments to void a contract, and all apply to Wellman's bogus social contract. A contract just is not assumed to be valid unless all parties agree to it voluntarily, and simply not leaving is not enough to do the trick. But I guess if Wellman accepts all of that, then he too must accept that, by making such a completely asinine argument, he contractually agreed to be this week's Extraordinaire.